What is going on, adults? I want to talk to you about the Xtreme Patriot 105 airbrush by Badger, why I think you should pick one up, and share with you some thoughts on it. Now, about a year and 3 months ago, I did my first impression of this airbrush, so I've been using it exclusively pretty much for a year. I also have acquired Sotar 2020 Slim, which is the Sotar 2020 with no cup. Maybe we'll make a video on that one. But I've only used that one a little bit. This one has been my go-to airbrush for everything, including priming miniatures, base coating miniatures, zenithal priming, highlighting, camouflage on a repulsor tank, putting metallics, coats down, whatever. I don't know how else to put it. Everything I've done with an airbrush, I've done with this one. So obviously I like it, and that's partially because I like it better than the other one. And it's the only one I have right now. I have picked up a few more to test out in the future, but let's get into some thoughts on this little airbrush right here. The good, I really like this high trigger. I do believe Badger sells the high trigger by itself, so you could upgrade any other Badger airbrush that uses the same trigger to this trigger mechanism, I guess, to the high trigger. So that's pretty cool. It's got this little guard here for comfort, for holding. I don't notice that much, but maybe it helps. It's got a large cut, which makes it good for priming and also base coating miniatures. You can really knock out a lot of miniatures. You can fill the cup up. One thing you might want to avoid, either putting the lid on it or don't move it around too much. Sometimes when I'm airbrushing, I'm like moving it like this, keep it moving. And the paint spills over the top. And that's with the big cup. So imagine the problems I'm going to have with no cup. So we'll see if I like that. And the things you're going to need to get used to if you have, say, like a cheap Chinese airbrush, which I have videos about, I think they're really, really good to get started with. But if you want to spend $100, I'm going to link this in Amazon to straight from Badger, and it's about $100. So that's a pretty good deal. And like I said, I've already been using this for a year and 3 months, almost not every single day, but every single time I airbrush. And it still looks, as far as I'd say, pretty much brand new. Like, I don't drop it, so that's good. If you do drop it, you might break the tip or bend the tip because it's very, very exposed. Hopefully, yeah, you can see that. It's very spiky. It's a sharp tip. So when you're backflowing it, in my other video, I was kept poking myself, and I talked to people about it over the course of the year. Some people use a paper towel, like damp paper towel or cloth or something. I have actually just been using it long enough I don't need to do that. I just pinch it with my fingers. So pinch over the needle, right? Here's the needle right there. Pinch over it, squeeze, and when you pull back the trigger, it would backflow air into that cup. And that's a way a lot of miniature painters use to stir their paint. Hopefully you're using plenty of airbrush thinner or flow improver. That's going to prevent any kind of tip dry or crud sticking in here, clogs, everything. I barely get any problems or clogs. And when I do, it's as simple as just unscrewing this front part and putting the little front part in the nozzle into some 91% rubbing alcohol and stirring it around and leaving it there overnight, and it's fixed. So everything cleans really good. This is made in the USA, which if you're from the USA, that's something people look for a lot, even though ghost brushes are made in China and everybody loves them. Those are mine. Go pick them up. You really, really like them. Go pick up a set. Try them out. And follow me on Kickstarter, Sleepwalk Air. Check it out. The airbrush here also, you can quickly remove the back here. And this gets you to the needle, which you just unscrew that there, and you can slide out the needle. So this is something people do. Sometimes they clean the needle off time and time again after they airbrush. I just make sure I shoot a bunch of airbrush thinner through it or cleaner through it, and that seems to keep it clean. I will pull it apart very, very rarely and do a deep clean. And I mean like less than 5 times in the year that I've done it. So not very often do you need to pull this out, pull this all the way apart, soak it and clean it. And you should be fine as long as you're using thin paint. 100% just thin your paint. And don't let your paint sit in there. When you're done, spray some water in, swish it around, backflow it, dump it, spray some more, dump it, spray some cleaner, dump it, spray some water, some cleaner, shoot it out, get everything going before you switch colors. Don't just set this down with paint in it and think, oh, just got to do one thing real quick. No, just when you're not shooting it, it's clean. When you're shooting, there's paint in it. When you're not shooting, you're making sure there's no paint in it. And you don't have to worry about it. It doesn't spit, doesn't sputter. It shoots a super fine spray. I don't really have a ton of examples, but, and you know my setup. Never mind, you can't see it. My setup, you can't see it. But I have been cranking out Deep Madness board game miniatures and just been cranking out all kinds of cool stuff, getting some little pre-shading on this Iron Hands Dreadnought for Space Marines. So anyway, 100% I highly recommend this as a good product, which makes me think all Badger products are good. We'll see when I get down to using that other airbrush. The one thing I don't like, which may make you want to just go with the Patriot 105 and not the Xtreme, is this little choke point here. This little valve, you can screw it up and stop the airflow, or you can unscrew it and increase the airflow. It feels a little wobbly. Like, I don't know if you see that moving? Let's put it against my skin. See that little bit of move? I don't like that. I wish it didn't do that. Also, I wish it was tighter. It feels, especially when you get really low, you can really wiggle it. The screw's not very long, obviously, because this is a small thing. So it pops out. And you naturally end up, you got to get used to it, but you'll end up bumping it a lot while you're airbrushing. You can end up hitting it. Most of the time I try to leave it at pretty just open. But that being said, even though I'm not a fan of that, I have used it where I haven't adjusted air pressure on my compressor, the PSI, and I've actually closed this down and really restricted the airflow and got in there for like a camo or a little highlight detail on a little plasma gun or something. So it's actually useful, and I don't have a quick connect, quick disconnect system yet with my hoses and my airbrushes. So when I have that, I might not ever use that. I might just switch to the finer detail airbrush to really get in there and put that little highlight in. So we'll see. I'm not an expert, but I am a miniature painter, and I do love it very much. So check out the link below if you want to pick up the Xtreme Patriot 105. It is a solid airbrush. And a lot of times people are asking, what's the best airbrush to start with a budget of $200? I'd go with the Badger Patriot or Patriot Xtreme, Chinese compressor with a tank and a hose. And you're probably going to need an adapter, either through Badger or some kind of adapter, because I use a little adapter to even fit this onto the hose, because I don't have a Badger hose. Or pick up that quick disconnect system through the hoses that I will be getting soon. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you check out Ghost paintbrushes on Kickstarter or eBay or just my YouTube channel. If you like airbrushing, I highly recommend this bad boy, and I'll talk to you soon.